MC3 in the real world. 3. Coaching and freelancing. Where personal identity, professional boundaries, and cultural expectations collide, and where the fragility of communication becomes most visible. Coaching and freelancing sit at an unusual intersection of the professional world. They are deeply personal and deeply transactional at the same time. You are hired for your expertise, yet your personality becomes part of the product. Clients come to you for clarity, confidence, transformation, or guidance, but they bring their entire emotional landscape into the relationship. Expectations shift. Boundaries bend. Cultural meanings blur. And because the relationship is closer and more human than most corporate interactions, communication collapses here in ways that feel sharper, more intimate, and more emotionally charged. In coaching and freelancing, clients rarely present their needs directly. They bring fragments, hopes, insecurities, professional pressures, cultural expectations, personal doubts. Their requests often mask deeper concerns. A question about strategy hides fear of failure. A request for feedback hides fear of judgment. A demand for urgency hides fear of irrelevance. A polite silence hides fear of being too much. These emotional layers reshape communication before a single sentence is fully formed. In more traditional corporate environments, the professional mask absorbs some of this tension. In coaching and freelancing, the mask is thinner. The emotional content rises quickly. And multilingual, multicultural differences magnify every nuance. Clients often arrive with a blend of motivations, some clear, some hidden even from themselves. A multilingual client may ask for help finding clarity, but they are also navigating internal translation. Their thoughts form in one language, their self-expression in another, and their emotional resilience in a third cultural code they inherited long before adulthood. To work with such a client is to enter the architecture of their mind, which makes communication both powerful and precarious. This is why MC3 is essential in coaching and freelance work. You are not dealing only with tasks, you are dealing with identity. You are not interpreting only instructions, you are interpreting worldview. You are not hearing only words, you are hearing everything the client cannot yet articulate. Coaching and freelancing demand emotional precision. A misplaced tone can shift the client's sense of safety. A rushed sentence can make them feel dismissed. A culturally mismatched response can trigger withdrawal. Every detail becomes meaningful because the entire relationship depends on the client feeling psychologically held. Consider the moment a coaching client hesitates before answering a question. To some, hesitation indicates thinking. To others, hesitation indicates doubt. To multilingual clients, hesitation often signals translation, not linguistic translation, but emotional translation, turning their internal truth into a form they believe is acceptable. If you interrupt the hesitation, the client contracts. If you misinterpret the hesitation, the conversation shifts. If you pressure the client for clarity too soon, they retreat into politeness. MC3 reframes hesitation as information. The pace regulator becomes the tool that keeps the space open long enough for truth to form. The emotional buffer becomes the bridge between the client's internal turbulence and their spoken words. In freelancing, the dynamic shifts. Clients may not expose their emotional world directly, yet it shapes every interaction. A client who repeatedly changes direction may not be indecisive, they may be navigating a culture of approval where decisions are rarely final. A client who insists on urgent responses may not be disrespectful, they may be responding to hierarchical pressure. A client who avoids giving negative feedback may not be satisfied, they may come from a culture where direct critique damages face. Freelancers misinterpret these signals frequently. They take them personally. They read them through their own cultural lens. They assume intention where there is only unfamiliar behavior. MC3 untangles these misinterpretations by revealing the deeper patterns beneath them. Imagine a freelance designer working with a client who keeps asking for small changes. The designer feels manipulated. The client feels polite. In some cultures, indirectness is a courtesy, in others, it is a request disguised. Without understanding the cultural logic, the freelancer interprets politeness as indecision, and the client interprets firmness as coldness. The relationship erodes silently. Or consider a coach working with a client who gives overly positive responses. Yes, that makes sense. No problem. I will try that. Great idea. Yet none of these phrases indicate actual commitment. They indicate harmony maintenance, a cultural instinct to preserve relational warmth rather than express uncertainty. The coach believes progress is being made. The client leaves sessions confused and ashamed for not understanding more clearly. Trust collapses long before either realizes there is a misunderstanding. Tone MC3 corrects these distortions. It teaches coaches to listen for consistency, not content alone. It teaches freelancers to interpret behavior through context, not assumption. It teaches both to anticipate where meaning may drift and stabilize it before it becomes emotional labor. Coaching is also shaped by identity vulnerability. When clients reveal goals, fears, or weaknesses, they become emotionally exposed. If the coach responds too directly, trust is damaged. If the coach responds too softly, direction weakens. MC3 helps coaches hold this tension, meeting the client where they are culturally and emotionally while guiding them toward clarity. Freelancers encounter vulnerability differently. Clients may express uncertainty through excessive detail, last-minute changes, or micromanagement. These behaviors often reflect fear of poor outcomes, fear of misalignment, fear of losing face in their own organization. MC3 reveals that many difficult clients are simply anxious ones. The thread keeper becomes essential here. When clients panic and scatter their thoughts across multiple requests, freelancers often feel overwhelmed. But the thread reveals the core fear the client is circling. Once that fear is held, the noise quiets. The relationship reorients itself. Coaching and freelancing also highlight the importance of relational boundaries. Different cultures expect different degrees of personal closeness. Some clients expect warmth and familiarity. Others expect formality. Some expect to be guided strongly. Others expect to lead. Boundaries collapse not through violation, but through mismatch. MC3 helps professionals sense the distance the client feels safe with and adjust accordingly. Perhaps the most profound MC3 insight in this field is that coaching and freelancing are not service roles, they are relational ecosystems where emotion, culture, language, and personal identity intertwine. What appears simple is rarely simple. What appears direct often carries layers. What appears chaotic often has structure. When coaches and freelancers learn MC3, conversations deepen without becoming heavier. Clients reveal more without becoming overwhelmed. Misunderstandings decrease because professionals can read the emotional and cultural map behind the behavior. Relationships become both more efficient and more humane. The next chapter, Healthcare, explores one of the highest stakes communication environments where misunderstanding impacts not just satisfaction, but safety. Case, the client who disappeared without warning. A freelance coach working with a global entrepreneur found that her client suddenly stopped replying. 2 sessions missed. No explanation. She feared she had done something wrong. Had she pushed too hard? Said something unfortunate? Misaligned expectations? When the client resurfaced, he apologized profusely. He explained, slightly embarrassed, that he'd hit a cultural wall. He felt overwhelmed and ashamed at not making enough progress between sessions. Silence had been easier than admitting perceived failure. His withdrawal wasn't avoidance. It was self-protection. When she shifted her approach, helping him reframe progress as micro-shifts rather than performance, his engagement deepened more than ever before. In coaching, disappearing acts are often emotional collapse, not rejection. Scenario practice, the vanishing client. If a client disappears, don't chase or pressure. Send a calm line, when you're ready to rejoin the work, we'll start from wherever you are, not from where you should be. Silence turns into trust.